Today is Monday, June 9th, and we welcome you back to the Frozen Edge podcast, your daily home for a deeper dive into the analytics behind the NHL's betting market, helping you craft your picks, props, and parlays as the chase for sports' greatest trophy is here. Game 3 tonight between Edmonton and Florida, with the series tied at 1-1, headed back to sunrise. He's Timo Seppa, former senior manager of hockey analytics at the NHL. I'm Casey Ditzel. Timo, what's happening?
Not much. Looking forward to a game here after a break of a couple days. It was weird, kind of a couple nights of thinking like, okay, is the next game on? Next game on? No, but yeah, happening now. So let's get to a game 3 after two games that were as close as could be in games 1 and 2, and both games kind of faked you out, thinking it's going one way, and then it goes the other way, and maybe even a couple twists so that way. So, exciting theater, exciting sports here.
Well, they're phasing us into our summer routines here. Pretty soon, there won't be much hockey left, but got to hold on to everything we've got left. And games 1 and 2 surely didn't disappoint. More overtime periods than games played in the Stanley Cup Final so far, with an overtime win for the Oilers, double overtime for the Florida Panthers. But let's start elsewhere in hockey news and the dramatic finish to the Dallas Stars season, with their star goaltender, who's on an 8-year extension upcoming, being benched early in the first period after letting in 2 goals on 2 shots. The aftermath of that comes out, and Pete DeBoer has been fired. Warranted or not there, I thought that was something that had to happen immediately when the press conference came out, and he pretty much blamed that loss on Jake Ottinger. You've got Ottinger signed for 8 years. That's the guy you've got to have your faith with if you're management.
Yeah, tough situation. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. I mean, DeBoer is a coach that tends to take his teams deep, just not all the way. So, I mean, that's probably not what this is all about. But, does a team eventually think, like, in the mix of trying to figure out what's going on here, like, yeah, DeBoer is good, but can we do better to get us to the promised land? So, I mean, like, that's a piece of it. The Ottinger pull, it was messy. I mean, I was among the people thinking that 2 goals on 2 shots wasn't good. I know that the U.S. announcer was not feeling the same way on that. But I thought he was kind of weak there. But overall, Ottinger was good in the playoffs. So was it the right call or not? It wasn't the right call as far as DeBoer's job security. So I think there's a little bit of smokescreen there. To me, what hurt him the most in my eyes was the fact that Dallas just continued to have no answer for Edmonton game after game. To me, that is it's an indictment on a team and their fighting spirit and their players' brain power to figure out how to beat a team. But hey, this is on a coaching staff. If it's bad enough if you can't figure out an adjustment, after one bad game, but a couple games in a row, it is a bit damning on a coaching staff.
They missed a lot of offensive opportunity in there. Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn went completely cold. Wyatt Johnston had a pretty brutal playoff, even though he was somewhat productive on the power play. Robertson didn't score until about halfway through that series. Mikko Rantanen, probably the biggest one, who had just about 20 points through 10 games and only had 2 points from there on, and no goals throughout the entire Western Conference Final. Is DeBoer a guy you would be looking at here for teams that still have opportunities as the coaching carousel wraps around?
Sure. I mean, he's had success in many places. He just hasn't had the big capital letter success. So yeah, I think DeBoer he's a good coach. I think he probably multiple reasons, like I said, that it was his time had come in Dallas. I think Dallas has other questions too, and we won't go on too long with this, but is Jamie Benn done? He's probably better than I give him credit for, but I've been ready to stick a fork in him for a couple years. So, but overall, I think the team probably needs to look at some changes. And with Miko Rantanen, I said this weeks ago. I mean, like his MO is hot and cold. So the fact that he's going bananas and ends up, towards the top of the Conn Smythe conversation, that's on brand. The fact that he checks out for a week or two of the playoffs, as far as scoring, that's on brand too. So he's he's a worthwhile player on a big team, but this is a little bit of what you get from him.
Let's move on to what the fans are here for and back to the Stanley Cup Final. Game two on Friday was just about as exciting as it could have gone. The inverse of a start to game one. Florida on the board early. Sam Bennett just 2:07 in with a power play goal. Kind of the opposite of Edmonton's quick start with Draisaitl scoring just over a minute into game one. But Edmonton bouncing back, two quick goals. It's 3-2 Edmonton after the first period. Panthers get a couple of goals. Marchand highlighted the second period with a shorthanded goal that hit the over just about halfway through the game, a little bit over that, 8 minutes to go in the second period. And then we stood there for a little while at 4-3 Florida until a very late, and you could capitalize late on that one. Flair for the dramatic by Corey Perry, 18 seconds to go. Extra attacker out there for about 3 minutes before they finally got it to go in. Perry ties the game and sends it to overtime.
Yeah, big goal by Perry, and that's why he's still playing at 40 years old. I mean, he's had a few bad penalties in this series, but he's a scorer. He was always a scorer, and still a scorer, and that's why he's been on a bunch of Stanley Cup final teams. I mean, like, to me, Marchand, what a gamer, and like what you love about Marchand is the anticipation. I mean, like on both of his goals, he's flying the zone. He's reading it ahead of time. I mean, like, that to me is a player he is locked into the moment. Crazy stat I saw online, and I remember him scoring in the final against Vancouver. But both of those goals on June 6th, one in 2011 versus Vancouver in the final, and one obviously now against Edmonton in the final. Two shorthanded goals, 14 years apart, and that shows you speed and some scoring ability. And like I said, in this game, both of his goals just right on top of it as far as anticipation.
Well, the Boston Bruins got that June 6th shorthanded goal. They went on to win in 2011. We'll wait and see if the Florida Panthers can use that random factor to go the same way with the June 6th, 2025 Marchand shorthanded goal. A long double overtime, getting late into the night. Right as I was about to give up and call it a night, head to bed and wait and check the morning, Elliot Friedman spoils the game for the second time in 2 games. I need to turn off all notifications going forward. Game one, I got the tweet 29 about a minute and a half before YouTube TV showed it. Then game two, double overtime. I'm half asleep. 63 pops up just in time for Brad Marchand to go and score. And now the series is 1-1 here. Your thoughts on the play there? And again, Marchand just continuing to get it done,
Yeah.
a big impact player. Now Florida ready to head home. They get the split. How happy should Florida be, 1-1 going back home, getting that out of that aggressive environment out up north?
I think Florida should be very happy. And as we discussed in the last game, I was 50-50 on the last game, thinking that there were some of the numbers were saying Florida and some were saying Edmonton. So I think we're back to where I'm feeling like it's Panthers in 7 after that felt dicey after Edmonton picking up a game one that I didn't see. I'll say on the Marchand goal, both of those goals, Bouchard on the ice, and the one in overtime. just like a really bad read in a pinch. And, Ekholm was in, his defense partner was in kind of deep, took one of those wide, high shots that, I don't know, even if you're a college player, you know that that's coming around the boards. And you got two uh, opposing players, including Marchand, coming after you. Marchand, who burned you earlier in the game, and you kind of go forward instead of backwards. That's one where coaches say, live to fight another day. You got to kind of bail out of that. So just to me, Bouchard messing those up. And, not surprisingly, NHL.com reported some deep pairing changes for Edmonton coming into this game. So you got Nurse with Bouchard now instead of Ekholm. You got Ekholm, Klingberg, and you got Kulak, Wallman. So, that's reacting with some pairing changes, which I think is decent. But I feel like that's a question of coaching and hockey IQ as far as players knowing when they should be aggressive and when they should back off.
Game 3 is tonight, 8 p.m. on Monday, and they head to Sunrise, Florida. The game lines have Edmonton as an underdog, plus 115. Florida the favorite at minus 138 for the spreads. Edmonton minus 215 to cover plus 1.5. Florida is plus 172 to cover minus 1.5. And the over-under, once again, set at 6.5. Edmonton in game 3, going back to 2024, on that Stanley Cup run where they went to game 7 against Florida last year. 3-4 in game threes, 1-4 when you don't count the first round, and both of those being against LA. Florida in game 3 since 2023 in their 3 straight appearances in the Cup final. They are 7-3 in game threes. And doing some digging through, looking at last year's series, especially at games at home for Florida. They were 3-1 on home ice, 3-0 win in game 1, 4-1 in game 2. They lost 5-3 in a big McDavid showing in game 5, but a 2-1 win in game 7 at home. And the one that really stands out to me is Evan Rodriguez's stats. Rodriguez here had a goal in game 1. He had 2 goals in game 3, another goal in game 5, and was certainly a big factor. He scored 4 goals in the 2024 finals, 3 of them coming at home, and so far has points in both games 1 and 2, skating on that line with Tkachuk and Bennett. We've seen Bennett put the puck in the back of the net. Also, Rodriguez on power play 1. Big odds there for an anytime goal, plus 370 on Rodriguez, plus 100 for an anytime point if you want to go a little bit safer there. But I want to talk here, Timo, about the over-under because we're back and forth.
Yeah.
Last time I said maybe it's an overlook for the entire series here. I'm right now leaning towards the under at 6.5. Maybe
All
talk
right.
me out of it here. 3 of the 4 games in Florida went towards the under last year, but we've seen all kinds of offense here, even though both goaltenders have made high numbers of saves, 42 saves in both games for Bobrovsky, 35 in the last game for Skinner. What are you seeing that's leading to this offensive boom? And both teams obviously chucking all kinds of shots, but there hasn't really been any, defensive structure stopping the shooting. Is there a way that you see the shot counts go down coming up here looking forward to the next couple games, or do you anticipate this to continue?
A lot of questions there. Yeah, and a lot of good questions there. I guess like you and I were looking at this game as far as the over under in 2 different ways. You were digging into the stats in Sunrise, which is legit. I was looking, and both of these are kind of small sample kind of reactions. When I mentioned previously, I think in the last show or 2 shows ago, looking and saying that games 3, 4, and 5, what I said were the meat of the series. Those were the over games. So okay, we're into game 3. So last year that was a slight over with the game going 4-3. So yeah, that's the point on that one. As far as the goaltending, the goaltenders look vulnerable. I mean, we know that Skinner can have his great games. We know that that he can be vulnerable. Bob, again, just to mention for the manyth time here, um, this is not like Dominic Hasek. This is not Tim Thomas in 2011. He's he's a good goalie that gets hot, but he's beatable. And there's a lot of familiarity here. Again, we're talking about, at the top of the show, talking about the Dallas coaching staff and how they adjust. I think these are part of what you want to adjust to is you want to figure out how to beat these goalies. You beat them on odd man rushes or rebounds or kind of jostling them in the crease or taking away their eyes. So I think the teams have figured out some vulnerabilities. So this is again like a chess game back and forth here. Like so. All right, Edmonton. They've got to stop those breakaways, and they've got to stop so many shots from in the house. So I think both goaltenders are vulnerable. Would I expect the shot counts to go down? Yeah, probably. I mean, again, like you can't if it's a overtime game, multi-overtime game. Okay, that's going to bump shot counts anyway, but overall, I would look for the teams to try to lock it down, whether they're successful or not. I would think that maybe at least shot count wise, they're gonna or like big chance, whatever their big vulnerabilities are. I'd figure that would get locked down at least.
Again, going back to Sunrise from last year, the Conn Smythe winner and current Conn Smythe favorite, Connor McDavid, did not have much success in Florida. Game 1, 0 points. Game 2, he had just 1 assist. Excluding Game 5, he had 4 points there, and that was the 5-3 win that the Oilers came away with. 2 goals and 2 assists. But Game 7, again, back to 0 points. So he had no points in 2 of the 4 games. 3 of the 4 games he was held without multiple points. He is a minus 115 pick to have under 1.5 points. Something to think about there if you're trending towards that under. If you're going the opposite way and maybe thinking the way Timo had with the later series and maybe continuing to find more goals, I would not say to pick McDavid unless you think this could be a little bit more of a tight defensive shot. Couple other props I got my eyes on. Sam Bennett with 3 or more shots in 11 of the 20 games here, 2 or more shots in 15 of 20 games for the Panthers. He also has 5 shots on goal in 5 games. If you want to go pick 4+ shots, that's plus 172 there. I'd lean more towards the 3 shots on goal, but you could also get crazy. It seems when he has those big games, he's putting up 5, 6, 7 shots on goal. 5 shots on goal is up there in the plus 300, plus 400 range, depending on your book. Timo, what do you see out of Bennett's game? And especially, it seems like he's got the hot hand right now, firing them into the back of the net, not just on net.
Yeah, I mean he's a player that's talked about a lot. Obviously, he's a couple of swingy calls there with goalie interference or not. Frankly, the one he got called for in game 2 probably wasn't a penalty, and I didn't think the game 1 was a penalty either, but I thought the game 1 was closer to a penalty than game 2. Whatever. I mean, this is what happens when you're playing this game of trying to get in the other team's head, but then the referees are reacting. He's one of those players. He's not the only one, but there are players like Corey Perry, Evander Kane, where they're trying to get in the mix here physically and getting under the team's skin, other team's skin too, where you're walking that fine line of, are you going to be helping your team or hurting your team depending on your actions? Anyway, like Marchand, Bennett is a gamer. He's a player that I look to have my eye on here. He could, putting aside the monkey business, and I'd figure that he would hold it down himself this game, at least a little bit, at least in the blue paint. I figured the coaches have told him that as well. He seems to be a player that will find some big moments.
Sergei Bobrovsky minus 118 to have over 25 and a half saves. Right now, the Oilers averaging 32.6 shots on goal per game. Bobrovsky has 42 saves in both games 1 and 2. So that feels like a pretty good pick if you expect the pucks to keep flying.
Overtime games, right? But yeah.
Right. Yeah, and even in both of those games, he was at 34 and
All
36
right.
in
Yeah.
regulation. Shots on goal for the Oilers. If you expect the Bobrovsky shot over, maybe look at McDavid to continue shooting the puck. He's plus 130 to have 4 shots on goal. He's reached that mark in 10 of 16 this postseason. He has 3 or more in 15, or excuse me, 10 of 18, 15 of 18. He has 3 or more shots, and that includes 4 shots on goal and 7 shots on goal in games 1 and 2 so far. Timo, the Conn Smythe here.
Mm,
Couple names we've got our eyes on maybe later down the list. The
yeah.
favorite still McDavid. He's minus 175 at this point. If you haven't picked him before the start of the year, the playoffs, probably not going to get a good return for
Mm,
the rest of this playoff in picking McDavid. But Bobrovsky's still hanging in there. He's plus 375, although we've
surprising.
seen a lot of pucks in the back of his net so far. But maybe if he can turn around, maybe a Skinner style finish, as Skinner did in the Western Conference Final here in the Cup Final. Draisaitl plus 450.
Mm.
I would say he's a little more likely than Bobrovsky. Later down the list, Barkov 10-1, Bennett 20-1, Marchand after his big performance still down 100-1.
Mm.
Any of those barking out at you?
Barking out at you, yes, barkoving out at you. I would not. I would stay off of Bob. I would not. I cannot see that happening. With I just like, I he'd have to pull some shutouts here, and I just don't see that. I think both of these, can you have one of these games here where one of the goalies puts up a 0 or 1? Yeah. Overall, I think these offenses have the goaltenders figured out a little bit. I would not be going with a goalie right now. Draisaitl, I think those odds, not surprisingly, he's put up goals. You would have had better odds a couple of games before. If you're going with one of the bigger name, one of the top three, I'd go with Draisaitl. Um, uh, certainly he's everybody's gaga over McDavid and the big assists, whatever. Draisaitl's putting up some goals, so I think he's a legitimate pick there. Barkov, surprised maybe that he's 10-1, but he's been relatively quiet so far, at least in the final. The two names, and there were other ones in there, but we zeroed in on Bennett and Marchand. Again, what I've said before in this podcast, those guys are gamers. If they have a couple of big moments here, I mean, obviously you got to have big enough moments where you are making a case over McDavid, over Draisaitl, over Barkov. So if for Bennett to cash in at 20-1 or Marchand to cash in at 100-1, they have got to do what they've done so far, and they've got to have two huge games, two huge moments each. You're talking about a hat trick for Bennett, and another couple game winners for Marchand, whatever, to get into that conversation, to be passing those other guys. But those are the names that are interesting to me as far as longer shots on the Conn Smythe.
Our parlay for the day: Florida money line. I'm gonna put in under 6.5 goals. Timo said maybe be wary of that one.
Yep.
Again, over under is kind of always a pick 'em, but Bobrovsky over 25 and a half
Mm-hmm.
saves, and McDavid to have under 1.5 points. And that,
Mm-hmm.
again, going along with that under pick, thinking Florida maybe can lock down the defense a little bit. Some props we also like: Evan Rodriguez, anytime goal at plus 370, still plus money to get an anytime point. Sam
Mm-hmm.
Bennett over 2.5 shots. Connor McDavid over 3.5 shots. And Timo, how about a long shot pick, long shot goal? We missed on Kapanen in last game, but looking at a couple defensemen here today.
Yeah, I mean, Florida, their defense has been chipping in all playoff long. We've seen Jones score recently. We've seen Mikkola put up big goals this offseason. So those are we like the Florida defense to chip in this game, and those are the D that we're looking at are Jones and Mikkola. What do you got as far as odds for them?
Some bigger odds there for Mikkola plus 1,700,
Wow.
Jones plus 650.
Yeah. Good.
That'll do it here tonight. Game 3 upcoming, and we close it off. Again, make sure to like, follow, subscribe on X, Spotify, and YouTube. We tweet out game-by-game picks, props, and parlays, helping you get a statistical advantage behind the NHL's betting market. Game 3 at 8 o'clock tonight as we try to boost the books here. He's Timo Seppa. I'm Casey Ditzel. Make sure to follow once again here on the X platform. We'll be back for Game 4 in a couple of days. Until then, have a good one, everybody.